We're obviously a couple weeks out from your title defense against Ian Machado Garry at Philly at UFC 330. How has camp been? How's preparation been? What do you make of Ian as an opponent?
Yeah, everything is going very well. We stay in the same gym. Like last couple of fights, we stay in New Jersey and training in Nick Cotton MMA. It's a very nice gym. I have too many my brothers and friends and sparring partner with me. Almost all team is here. We're training together. Habib is here, Javier is here, and we're training every day very hard to be ready.
And obviously Dagestan and Ireland have a bit of history with Habib and Connor, obviously Paul Hughes and Usman over in PFL. You're preparing for another Irishman yourself. What do you make of Ian as an opponent and kind of carrying on that rivalry between countries?
This is just like a regular opponent, nothing some between country, but still we have 2-0 now, it's going to be 3-0.
Has Ian any different than your past opponents? Because obviously he's very tall, he's very rangy, he can make the fight slow if he wants to. What do you make of his skill set?
His skills, I just have to run in this camp too much because I have to follow him because he runs too much. I know his game plan. We always see his fight, and he has same style always. But I will try to catch him, take him down. Just what I did with my all opponents.
He's done a lot of his camp, obviously, with Charles Oliveira. He's trained a lot. Is there anything Charles can tell him about you that you're worried about?
Yeah, Charles is going to teach him how to tap fast. That's it.
Islam Makhachev isn't leaving anything to guesswork heading into UFC 330. In his final stages of preparation, the champion sat down and told the world exactly how he expects this fight against Ian Machado Garry to end, and the confidence behind it is impossible to ignore. "I have the advantage everywhere," Makhachev said. "I'm going to pressure him, hold him, make him tired, and finish him. At UFC 330, I will beat Ian Garry inside 3 rounds. That's not hedged language. That's not a champion offering the usual, cautious pre-fight platitudes about respecting his opponent and letting the fight play out naturally. That's Makhachev putting a specific, public number on the table. A finish inside 3 rounds, 13 days before he actually has to deliver on it in front of a sold-out crowd at Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia. Break down that quote piece by piece and you get almost a complete blueprint of what Makhachev's team has been building toward throughout this entire training camp. Pressure first, forcing Garry to work defensively rather than dictating range on his own terms. Hold second, exactly the suffocating top control that's defined Makhachev's championship reign across 2 weight classes. Tire him out third, draining Garry's cardio and composure through relentless grinding rather than chasing a single highlight reel finish. And then, once all of that has done its work, the finish itself. It's a formula Makhachev has executed against elite competition again and again, and he's now told everyone exactly how he plans to run it back against Garry specifically. It's worth noting how unusual it is for a champion to actually name a specific round in a public prediction like this. Most fighters, even supremely confident ones, tend to stick to vague statements about finishing fights or trusting their game plan, avoiding the kind of specific number that could later be used against them if the fight doesn't go as planned. Makhachev's willingness to put inside 3 rounds on the record, 13 days out, reflects a level of certainty that goes beyond typical pre-fight bravado. It's the kind of statement that only really works if you genuinely believe your camp has solved the puzzle in front of you. That kind of public confidence from Makhachev isn't new, but the specificity of it is notable. This is a fighter who's earned the right to talk this directly given his resume, a 16-fight winning streak tied for the longest in UFC history, wins over Arman Tsarukyan, Alexander Volkanovski twice, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, and most recently, a near-flawless decision over Jack Della Maddalena to capture the welterweight title in his very first fight at 170 pounds. That last performance in particular is worth remembering here, because it shapes exactly why Makhachev feels this confident heading into a new title defense in a division he's only just entered. Garry's own team isn't buying any of it, and their pushback has been just as direct. Shootbox coach Diego Lima, part of Garry's striking preparation, gave his own blunt prediction to Sherdog. "I'm not going to pick the round, but I don't believe Islam makes it to the 5th, Lima said. Before then, Ian is going to land a shot that Makhachev will feel, and once that happens, he'll lose his composure. That's a direct rebuttal to Makhachev's own prediction, not just disagreeing on who wins, but specifically targeting the psychological side of Makhachev's game, suggesting that a single clean shot from Garry could unravel the composure that's made him so dominant across 2 divisions. Lima didn't dismiss Makhachev's ability either, which makes his prediction carry more weight than a simple corner-mandated show of confidence. "Makhachev is definitely a special fighter," Lima said. "I was really impressed by what he did against Madalena because he completely changed his fighting style after moving up in weight. At lightweight, he took more risks and absorbed a lot more strikes. In his welterweight debut against the Australian, he barely got hit for over 25 minutes. It was practically a flawless performance. That's genuine technical respect from an opposing coach, not empty pre-fight posturing, and it makes his ultimate prediction against Makhachev feel more like an informed tactical read than simple corner loyalty." Lima's actual case for Garry rests on something concrete beyond pure confidence too: the sheer physical scale of the challenge Makhachev is facing for the first time. Besides being extremely versatile, Ian is one of the biggest welterweights on the roster, and for the first time since joining the UFC, he's had a full training camp, Lima explained. That detail about camp preparation matters more than it might seem at first. Garry's 2 most notable recent fights came together on short notice, called in against Carlos Paredes on just 2 weeks preparation, and against Shavkat Rakhmonov with only 20 days to get ready. This time, Garry has had a full 2 months to train specifically for Makhachev's exact style, a luxury he hasn't had in his biggest fights to date. That extended preparation window is exactly what Lima believes gives Garry his best chance at pulling off the upset. Rather than scrambling to game plan for an opponent on truncated notice, Garry's entire camp has been built from the ground up specifically to solve the Makhachev puzzle, drilling the exact range management, footwork, and composure needed to survive 25 minutes against a fighter this relentless. Lima was careful to note this isn't a mismatch on paper either, framing the matchup as genuinely competitive rather than simply hoping for a lucky break. There's also broader context worth understanding about how much attention this fight is currently commanding across the entire promotion. The UFC spent the past month running events in Belgrade, but the promotional spotlight has clearly shifted almost entirely toward UFC 330 and Makhachev's mindset heading into it, with the promotion running dedicated features specifically built around his prediction for how the fight plays out. That level of promotional focus, 13 days out from an event, reflects just how significant this title defense has become, not just as a routine welterweight fight, but as a genuine measuring stick for whether Makhachev's dominance truly translates against a completely different caliber of physical opponent. There's also outside perspective worth weighing here, coming from someone who's actually experienced Makhachev's specific style of dominance firsthand. Dustin Poirier, submitted by the then lightweight champion at UFC 302 back in June of 2024, offered Garry some pointed, practical advice on deep waters ahead of the fight. "You have to do some kind of damage," Poirier said. "You can't just run the whole time throwing a jab and expect to win the round against a guy who's pushing you against the fence." That's a specific tactical warning from someone who understands exactly how draining and disorienting it is to spend rounds defending against Makhachev's constant forward pressure. Poirier's point cuts directly against a passive, keep-away strategy, suggesting that Garry needs to actually engage and do real damage rather than simply trying to survive on points. That warning from Poirier lines up closely with exactly what Makhachev himself predicted in his own comments. If pressure and grinding control are indeed coming as promised, a purely defensive, distance-based strategy from Garry could play directly into Makhachev's hands rather than away from them, exactly the outcome Poirier is warning against. Garry's team, at least according to Lima's comments, seems to understand this dynamic too, framing their entire camp around actively landing shots that hurt Makhachev rather than simply avoiding engagement for 25 minutes. So where does that leave things heading into August 15? You've got a champion who's publicly committed to a specific finish inside 3 rounds, backing that confidence with a nearly flawless welterweight debut performance against Della Maddalena. You've got an opposing coach who respects that performance deeply, while still betting that Garry's size, his full training camp, and 1 clean shot are enough to unravel Makhachev's composure before the championship rounds ever arrive. And you've got a former Makhachev opponent, someone who's actually felt that suffocating pressure firsthand, warning Garry that passive footwork alone won't be enough to survive it. That's a genuinely rare combination of specific, public predictions from multiple angles, all pointing toward very different outcomes. Makhachev isn't hedging, Lima isn't backing down, and Poirier's advice sits right in the middle, a practical roadmap for exactly what Garry needs to do differently than Makhachev's usual level of opposition. What's your prediction? Does Makhachev's specific, publicly stated formula, pressure, hold, tire him out, finish, play out exactly the way he's promising? Or does Garry's full training camp and superior size finally produce the kind of statement performance his coach is predicting? It's rare to see this much specificity from both sides of a title fight this close to fight night, and that willingness to commit publicly to exact predictions is exactly what's made this build-up one of the most compelling storylines on the entire UFC calendar. Drop your pick in the comments, and subscribe for more UFC 330 breakdowns as Fight Week approaches.